First of all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing fowls.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charrandass Persaud, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they weren't talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that.
Calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
yes,
but an erratic detective is Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African supping in young? Why a man and sup a woman? Look, you deal with that. You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
You apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hi there, welcome to Arrival Day edition of the Freddie Kissoon Show. Whatever you did today in celebration of Arrival Day, we hope you enjoyed it and it brought you immense mental, psychological comfort. This is Arrival Day, and once again, we'd like to wish you a happy and pleasant Arrival Day holiday. We are living in uncertain times in this country, and here with me are three very experienced
Political activists.
Either political activists, politicians, or just say politically driven Guyanese. And we're going to discuss some recent events and link it to the elections coming up. We're going to look at two events, and our guests are going to determine in their own way what are the implications of these two events for the election. Will it change? Will it be a game changer? Will it affect some parties or not? What these two events will have, effect they will have in the months to come as we campaign towards either an October or November elections. Those two events are horrendous violence that greeted Guyana last Monday, in which more than 12.5 supermarkets were looted, cars and trucks were burnt, people were beaten, and there were fires all over the place. But the two most depressing part of that ordeal on Monday was acid thrown on a school bus, and the acid got on the faces of some school children. Then there's an alleged gang rape, which has not been substantiated as yet. So those events, together with the Adrianna Young drowning tragedy, has sparked total, absolute and complete talk all over Guyana. So the post-mortem has revealed that the girl died by drowning. The family wants another post-mortem. The burial has been postponed. But we look at all of that in relation to the elections. We go alphabetically. Our guests are Rajendra Bissesar. As you know, he has formed his own political party. The iconic Charrandass Persaud, and someone who's been around a long time, Malcolm De Freitas, formerly of TUF, the United Force. We go alphabetically. We start with Rajendra Bissesar, and we will ask him how does Monday evening affect the months to come in the election campaign? Rajendra?
I just want to seek a clarification. The news, sometimes you don't know what is true or false. But the latest thing I saw was the family said they did not want a post-mortem. So you're saying that they're going ahead with it?
Well, I read the newspapers, all the newspapers online, and Puntino said the family requested a post-mortem.
A second
post-mortem. And since the state did not show an interest in it, they went ahead with the burial, which was supposed to take place this morning. That burial was postponed.
Okay. I would like to say happy arrival day. Unfortunately, it's marred by the incidents
last Monday
that Freddie was speaking about. It's a tragedy when a young person's life is snuffed out. I have my views about it. One of the major problems is a serious set of contradictions that have taken place, and I feel the police should have acted in a different way in terms of allowing the family and so on. I do not know how much I should go into that, but I just want to say that from my understanding of the situation and what I've been observing, there was a test afterwards and where somebody dived down into the pool at 7 feet and 8 feet, and you were way across the pool and videoing it, and you could have seen the body at the bottom of the pool. Secondly, if there are a lot of people all around and a child is drowning, that child will be struggling. Any person drowning struggles. And so somebody would have noticed. There are some serious questions where the police, I think his name is Reese, the CID guy, told his family that he searched the building. But secondly, afterward, he said that there was some footage where he saw the child getting into a vehicle, which subsequently was proven to be false. I'm hearing a senior officer also talked about the footage, and then they said they saw footage where the car was somewhere on the West Coast, and the family left the location to go looking.
Okay.
And so there's all these questions that are.
Well, after the post-mortem, right?
Just one more point. Like the videos are showing you like tissue with blood and so on. I don't know if any sample was taken, any test. And if the guy's foot is wet, whether they would have tested and so many things to my mind could have been done and was not done. But the whole idea of preventing the family from going in and so on looked bad on the police force. Instead of facilitating, it looks like they were obstructing.
Okay, Char.
Having said that, it is unfortunate that the public proceeded. I wouldn't say the public. Okay, to my mind, where I stand. We should have acted differently in terms of, one woman told me if there was peaceful demonstration, they would have joined. I personally would have joined the protest. So protest should, if you do protest in a peaceful way, you'll find, especially in this particular situation, thousands more would have joined that protest. Unfortunately, to my mind, it was hijacked by a set of thugs, I would call them. I have no other thing. They were joined by a set of thugs. I would not blame the parents. I would not blame anybody else. I would not even blame the People's National Congress. I am saying there are these people who take advantage of the situation. And I'm saying the state should have anticipated. They should have known it would be taking place. And the state should have acted to preempt the situation and put things in place. And to my mind, the state failed the people in protecting the people of this country.
Sharon?
Freddie, thank you very much for having me, and good evening to all the viewers, friends and family, and some of you who don't even know me. Let me say happy arrival day to all of you. I hope that you did something memorable today. Now, what is happening in Guyana here, and particularly because of the death of young Adrianna Young, this 11-year-old child. I personally, when it comes to molesting or having any issue with a child of that age will take you to task. And what is happening now, I don't know, and I honestly don't know how the child died, except that we have from the postmortem. The postmortem was done by 3 forensic doctors who are qualified, who are not even Guyanese, who were flown in to Guyana to do the postmortem. And their findings showed that the child died by drowning. There was no sign of forced or any kind of force being used on her. She was not sexually molested. Now, I cannot say anything about that except that that is what I have from qualified people. Those of us who feel that they're not satisfied, well, you know, I have learned a long time ago. I have a brother in Canada who loves skiing. He loves the snow. I hate the snow. So we will all have our own opinion on matters that may be real. And so for now, what we are getting, however, they call it protest in the name of Adrianna Young or in support of the family. I don't think any family member was arrested from the number of persons who have been arrested for inciting and causing all this trouble, and bail was refused to them. I don't think any one of them is a family member. People are using this tragedy to facilitate their own greed. And as my friend and brother here, Bissesar, said, I can only describe them as thugs. I will support that description, because why are you going after Chinese stores or any store? Why are you robbing? And they're seen fetching things out in public like they did at the Monrepo market not too long ago. And you know what? A school bus with children and teachers was attacked. Acid thrown on this group. School children, probably the same age as young Adrianna. You think the parents of Adrianna Young did that or supported that? You think they would ever support something like that? Any sensible person would not remotely condone such acts. Yet, these are protesters. These are hooligans. Trust me, they are, who are doing these things. And Freddie, what is left to be answered for me personally is the role of the police in all of this thing, or the events surrounding the passing of the young Adrianna. For now.
Malcolm, did anybody burn anything, or did any supermarket got looted by you last Monday?
Freddie,
you think he looks like a thug?
If he looks like Rasputin. I've always said that on this program.
The issue we have here is a very complex issue, and when you have complex issues, many times people fish in troubled waters, right, for their own benefit, of course. Now, a political protest in relation to something that you are aggrieved at has certain conditions inside of that, all right? When those conditions are breached, it is no longer a protest as such, it becomes a criminal act. And there is a distinct difference between the one and the other. But to the issue of the young girl's demise, there are a lot of open questions in this matter. And certainly, some of the decisions and acts of the police on that issue by various officers are troublesome, certainly unprofessional, and certainly to some extent might be even deemed to be criminal. And other persons might go and say even complicit in it. Now, we have a troublesome frame in terms of a lot of what might be perceived to be accurate news at one point becomes inaccurate later on. And that's also part of what I call fishing in troubling waters. Because if you have an opinion, as we all have a right to an opinion, but in an issue where there is a criminal act, there are criteria that the professional police adheres to. Unfortunately, according to the reports in the public media, most of those were in breach. And that could have further increased the turbulence and the fishing out of that turbulence. And that I find extremely troublesome, because now, in our nation, we have to wonder, do we, the citizen, get protection from the police? It now becomes an open question. And that of itself is troublesome in any society, because the institution was designed to protect the citizen is now in question as whether they want to do so, they're capable of doing so, or they're under instructions precisely at many times not to do so. And that is what is troublesome.
Okay. Rajendra, we come back to you. More than, I think it was about, Ralph Ramkaran in his column, I didn't know that, but he said 18 supermarkets were looted. I want to tie in the nature of the victims to what you said on this program a few minutes ago. If I think, I can't remember exactly what you said, if you had the opportunity or what, you yourself would have protested, and you're an Indian.
If it was a peaceful protest.
Yeah. So this thing had a multiracial resentment about what happened. How did it end up with all the business looted, all the trucks that were burned, all the people that were beaten were Indian? It just pierces your psyche that this wasn't the election of PNC versus PPP. I saw Indian people outside that hotel protesting. Tushin is a village. How did this thing end up with the victims just being Indians? I'm going to ask around the table.
Freddie, even before I go there, I just want to make a few points with regard to the postmortem says by drowning. If somebody is stabbed, the postmortem says probably hemorrhaging caused by XYZ. It doesn't tell you who or what the circumstances. That has to come out from a forensic investigation which needs to take place. I just want to make this point. Scientifically, a body takes 2 to 3 days to surface.
Yeah, but I want to avoid that because none of us are pathologists here.
I'm just saying,
let's leave that.
These are facts that are...
No. Nigel, you said the president cannot pronounce that there's no forced wrongdoing. He's not a pathologist.
Okay, fine.
Right.
Let's that.
Darren Wade said the Minister of Health said you can't have a second postmortem in certain circumstances. It will be a problem for the law. Darren Wade said the Minister of Health is not a lawyer. And that is what complicates these matters when you're not a pathologist, you're not a lawyer. Let us look at the political aspects of these things and keep in safe water with that. So could we move on?
I want to say this.
Could we move on?
I was part of a struggle for, and you know this, tremendous amount of years. We had protests, okay? But I can't remember the WPA, the PDM, the PPP, the UF ever participating after elections that were obviously rigged in looting and so on. I'm going to make myself quite clear. The majority of looting thing takes place after elections when the PPP would have been declared the winner. That's historically correct. 92, 97, 201, violence after the elections. Then we had the seizure of Buxton, and then we had it in 2020, and then we had it with the Mon Repos, and now we have it. Now, the leader, everybody should have come out. Every single party should have come out and categorically condemned the violence that took place, the beating, and I've also written letters about the point you made. The violence is directed against a particular grouping, which makes it race hate violence. It's a race hate violence because beat everybody. Why every time, whether it was West Coast or where it was Manipur, it was directed to a particular grouping. Now, the Norton was talking about the PPP paying thugs to infiltrate.
And Nigel Hughes.
I think that's the most, look, I don't like the PPP. I'll be fighting against them. I just lost my job again criticizing them. So I am not PPP. But don't tell me in 92, in 97, in 201,
2002 to 2005 in Buxton.
Who took over the Buxton? The PPP took over Buxton. And we go on the Mon Repos. It was clear, the video showed the people who stole went into Golden Grove and they distributed the stuff. So don't tell me PPP thugs left Mon Repos, carried the goods in Golden Grove and distributed it. It's nonsense. To my mind, it's unfortunate what the PNC is doing, and it's doing it to their detriment.
And the AFC.
It's doing it to their detriment.
Now, hold a moment.
No, let him finish, please.
It's doing it, in other words, when they think this thing is going to put the PPP in bad light and hurt the PPP, it's hurting them. Now, I do not understand if the PPP now paid a couple of hundred thugs to go and steal and burn and whatever, and then arrested 100 and something of them. Did they arrest their own thugs? So those people would have said, hello, you're the one who paid me, now you're charging me. So it is an absurdity. I would have expected the AFC, every single political and civil organization in this country should have come out and categorically condemned. So when you're talking nonsense about PPPing thugs and whatever, to my mind, it's absurd and ridiculous. And that's just feeding into their support, which to my mind is diminishing because the sensible people would not buy such nonsense.
Sharon, I saw a journalist ask Nigel Hughes about how do people feel, the truck driver whose truck was burnt, the people. And Nigel Hughes answered the question by saying, those were urgent provocateurs that came from the PPP.
You got to be kidding me.
Here was my question to you. This has to be a fantastic machinery, the PPP, that just as soon as the post-mortem was announced, and the father said, in Hope Town, in Sophia, in Eccles, in Region 3, these people were lightning, organize these when people look at Nigel Hughes saying that, the topic of this discussion tonight is how does that affect the election results? And I think this event of what happened Monday is going to change the permutations in the next couple of months.
Freddie, you see, these politicians, and I'm talking about the politicians from the AFC, the PNC, and even this man who describes himself as a doctor, Dr. David Hines. There's a call. You heard Mark Benchcop. Who is Mark Benchcop? Unknown. Anyways, leave that out for now. He said, why are you not blocking the Borby Street? Why is that bridge not blocked as yet? Why are you asking people to block a bridge that facilitates the whole public? Anybody can use that bridge. You want to block the bridge. For what reason? Is that what you do when you protest?
The board bridges too.
Then David Hines said, oh, what they're doing is right. Like, what are you hoping to gain? Then you're blaming the government. Look, again, contrary to some of your beliefs out there, I have never voted PPP. I am not a PPP member. Leave that out for now, because I just said that because I want you to understand. There's no love lost between me and the PPP. But I will tell you, why are you blaming the government and asking, for example, the Commissioner of Police to resign because of what happened? If your child goes outside there and gets in a fight and stabs somebody, you, the father, should go to jail? These things will happen. Now, what happens afterwards, how it's handled, and I don't know. I don't know that you politicians who are hoping, dreaming like Nigel Hughes, that they will get a seat in Parliament. I said it so many times, I want to say it again. The AFC self-destruct. Nigel Hughes is no magician. And you need to ask the people what role he had in the no confidence and in the election fiasco of 2020. Now, those are things that will come out. This man still has to answer to the people, but he's coming out with Patterson and Ramjatan, and they want votes. They're doing what they do because they think that will give you a view of the PPP that will then result in you voting for them. Is that what politicians do? Is that how they go out and garner votes? Go there and sell to the people yourself and your goals for the people. What you can do for the people. And expect that they will believe you if it's convincing enough, and hope that you may deliver on your promises. Of course, the AFC never delivered, and we all know that. So why do you think Nigel Hughes, as leader of the AFC, will deliver? My friends, they are moving on the wrong platform when they're looking to get votes, because to incite violence, to cause young children and teachers in a bus to be molested and put their lives in danger.
Acid, thrown acid
on children. Come on, I get goosebumps even thinking of that. And we're fighting for Adrianna Young's demise and want to know why she died, how she died. And these are all concerned. This is the result of it. This is how you're going to find answers. The stupidity of these politicians, and some of them who, to me, I can't describe them as fools. They're beyond being foolish. Way beyond that. They expect to get votes by doing this? You blame the government? The government did as much as they could have done to determine the cause of death. We're not satisfied with that? No, we're not. A lot of us are saying, second post-mortem, the doctors, I don't know what you want. And why are you blaming the president or the government of Guyana for what happened? You expect to get votes by doing that. Freddie,
Malcolm.
You know, unlike others, I don't name people in relation to...
Well, that's your choice.
No,
well, that's your choice.
I'm saying what I'm saying, Freddie.
Yeah.
I don't, as a matter of policy, do that. I look at the entire picture, and the picture is disturbing, one. The aftermath of anger or whatever sparked this phenomena of the looting, etc., etc. But to blame it on a political group or groups without the evidence of it is also disturbing. If somebody can show that there is a direction from a political group to an individual or a gang or whoever to do these acts, that's also would criminalize that political organization. All right? Now, so I don't go to speculation. I leave the professionals to do their work. And now I'm questioning whether the professionals in this aspect, the police force, is capable, one, wants to do so too, or are constrained from doing so. Right. Now, what we should be dealing with is trying to, this thing we call Guyana, which is also a mental conceptualization of way we should behave. When those things become distorted because of an incident, the girl died, we questioning a lot of things. There's so many open questions in relation to this young girl demise.
Yeah.
And you know, when I first heard about this girl demise, you know, I sat down in pain. I was actually in pain, and I know anybody who was a father or a mother would have been feeling that kind of pain.
Well, could I just stop you there?
Yeah.
And said that you want, I don't know if you were making reference to Rajendra about blaming political parties. Well, I'd like you to know. I don't know, because when he was speaking, you wanted to interrupt him.
Yeah.
But I want you to know that Nigel Hughes has given an explanation for the looting, the burning, the beating. And he was pellucid and unambiguous. He blamed agent provocateurs that were the people who did that from the PPP. So I hope when you were when you tried to interrupt him, I hope you're not saying that he should not blame the PNC or PPP, but Nigel Hughes blamed the PPP.
Malay carried them to court.
Well, let me just say this.
Let me prove that in a court of law that they were agent provocateurs, and the agent provocateurs did that.
But
no, it should go that way too.
But as time going, I want to find out from all three of you how you see what happened on Monday, because 5 years ago it was Cotton Tree and people were beaten. There's this tragic story of the young little 16-year-old girl with a grandmother going to the airport, and what happened to them. Cotton Tree was terrible. Then Rajendra introductory remarks, it go on, 92, 97, 2001, 2002, stretching to 2005 in Buxton. And it keeps going on. It has to have, this one here, this one is not post-election, like 2020 in Cotton Tree, 1997 the election finished, 92 the election finished. This is happening when we're approaching an election, and it must, not it will or it may, it must have an effect on how people will vote.
Look, let me say this. I am sitting here, and Charrandass said he's not PPP. I was. And
well, everybody knows you're not PPP.
Many people will know that I supported and campaigned for Granger. So I was hoping, AFC, no, it's a coalition.
Right.
I was hoping that after being in the wilderness for some time, there are changes, they would have changed the spots. Now, there's no doubt in our mind, or the people's mind in this country, that we had a dictatorship, a PNC dictatorship in this country. There's no doubt, should be any doubt in the people's mind, it was oppressive. We recall O'Heaney, Dublin, Father Dark, Walter Rodney, murdered, etc. Now, the fact is, I'm asking this question. There's a statement. If you do the same thing over and over and over, and you get a particular result, why do you believe it's insanity to do the same thing again
and expect change,
and expect a different result? So you did what you did in 92, going on the way. You didn't get power because of it. You gained power in 2015 because 30,000 Indians from supporting the PPP crossed the floor to vote for the coalition. So they were put back in power. They had a glorious opportunity. There's no doubt in my mind, they stupidly blew it. They blew that glorious opportunity by their conduct. Now the PPP had gone back in. I don't think the PPP itself has learned its lesson too, because they seem to feel they can do whatever they want, and they take for granted they will get the kind of...
So they're now a dictatorship.
Please, I did not interrupt you. I did not interrupt you, sir. So the reality is telling me about somebody I don't like. It's funny. The thing is, the PNC believe. Look at West Coast. The West Coast matter. The Henry brothers got killed right away. As you said, I don't know if the PPP organized that one, but for 2 weeks they blocked road and they continued the nonsense. Okay, they continued it, and it was being said that certain political activists of the PNC was there talking to them and
Granger went up and spoke to the and Joe Harmon.
And I must say thanks to Valda because she went there.
She went there to stop it.
And she stopped it.
She had stopped it. Yeah.
And she stopped it.
Valda Lawrence. Yeah.
So they listened to her. So I do not know if she went and spoke to those PPP thugs and stopped them from protesting. There's a reality that the PNC is frustrated and they don't know what they're doing. What they're doing is politically stupid, incorrect, and it don't make sense. So, but they somehow or the other believe by by instigating violence, some or the other, they can hold their people together. And it's not going to happen. We are seeing a number of people leaving the PNC. There's no doubt in the mind of the people that the PNC in power the last time we put them did not do anything for the ordinary black people, even they did things for the top. Now we are seeing the PUP in power and the PP is doing the same thing. They're looking after the top level and not looking after the bottom level. So both parties are guilty. If they were to put back the PNC in opposition, they didn't do anything for you in the power. They wouldn't do anything for you in opposition. So the only thing they serve, the PNC in opposition and the main opposition, forces Indians to vote PPP because of fear. And what they have done this last time with the nonsense they're telling us, I don't know which intelligent Afro-Guyanese or Indo-Guyanese or whoever would believe, as Freddie aptly described it, these people has to be some miracle. I mean, you're talking about miracle, where they could suddenly organize their thugs to infiltrate all of these places and then turn back and arrest 100 something of their thugs. So there's no doubt in my mind that the PNC stupidly utilizes these opportunities to create mayhem, thinking that it's going to benefit them. Take the Buxton matter. Mr. Hoyt, after the 92 election, said he pledged to make Guyana ungovernable. Those were his words. He pledged that Jagan will not be in power for more than 6 months. One time he did a march of 20,000 people. It was peaceful. So why didn't he do it before? When he wanted the dogs to be called off, it was called off. So there's no doubt in my mind that the PNC believe by utilizing incidents like this to create mayhem, they're going to succeed. They're not going to succeed. It's stupid. Now the PPP has a choice right now. If they want to be honest and if they want to rule this country in a decent way. The fact is, so many questions around the murder, and the people do not have trust in the police. We ought to, and as I said, from my own standpoint...
Murder, the postmortem said death by drowning.
Look, okay, let me explain that. Death by a blunt object.
No, but we just talk about evidence.
Hold it.
You can't call it murder.
Allow me to finish.
That is what inflames things.
Okay, let me withdraw.
You're a very experienced man.
Let me withdraw the word.
And you normally sign your letters in the press as LLB.
Let me withdraw the word murder. What I'm saying is this, right? The coroner pronounced death by hemorrhaging caused by a sharp object or whatever. They don't say who caused it or who shoot or whatever.
They say death by drowning.
Right.
So
the difference in where and how.
You could say death by drowning wherever.
I am saying to you, there was evidence.
Your friend Malcolm talk with evidence.
The child was not in the pool. So I am saying,
not his friend?
We need to.
You're preposterous and insulting.
Publicly.
We need to pull in people from outside of one of these major international investigative organizations in order to investigate this matter.
Time is going.
We need to have that, okay?
Sharon, it's going to affect, he made it clear. Which sensible person is going to vote for people who, instead of appealing, to their supporters, you can't do this, Who's going to vote for them? Who's going to vote?
Freddie, on that note, I spoke last night. It was late, probably about 9:30, to 3 young, educated, actually, and I say educated because they do things that sensible people will do. But 3 of them, one of them is a contractor guy. He does all kinds of cement and concrete work. But the 3 of them said that the looting and the burning and the robbing that's going on has nothing to do with protesting in the name of young Adrianna Young. These are people who are just hooligans hustling to take from people what they don't have.
Lumping proletariat.
Seriously, and these are 3 young black students. I shouldn't just shoot young people. Let me say this now. To you politicians...
What the Chinese did.
Right. You politicians who are pushing this race thing.
Have money.
And you're plenty of you doing it publicly. Young black people, the youths, they know what you're up to. You cannot fool them. Trust me, you cannot fool them. Like the PPP can't fool young Indian boys and girls, or I say boys and girls, now to vote for them because of what they're doing. If they're not impressed, they're not satisfied, they're not going to vote for you. And you inciting and creating this mayhem in the country, you're causing your own people to turn on you or turn against you. They will hate you, not just dislike you. Stop the nonsense. Speak sensibly. Speak outside of your emotional confusion that you're entertaining. And you might get proper support from healthy, young, dedicated people.
Malcolm, on this program, I told a young guest, I think his name was Alfonso Diamos, who's a young a PPP council young black man. If he knew the name Rasputin, and he said yes, that's because you always have your hair long and you look like Rasputin. You cut your hair. So
Freddie, you have a problem with the mystic, the Russian mystic, who led, because of his life, led to the revolution.
I have a problem straight on the point. I just said, I just brought in the Rasputin thing because you cut your hair, so we can't say you look like Rasputin anymore. But I want to ask you something.
I am answering the question you posed to the other two. I'm answering the question you posed to the other two. How would this affect the
election?
I'd
like to hear your thoughts on that. That's the theme of the talk show this evening.
Good, beautiful. Right. So you're ready for the answer?
Yes.
Good.
Shoot.
The assumption.
No. So sorry. Yeah.
You want to carefully ready?
Yeah.
Carefully ready?
Yeah. Sure. I've enjoyed that.
Who's talking to the cameraman? All right, good. No, you see, in a country like ours, where there, because of the economic frames, and sometimes people would even say political oppression by the state, whoever governing the state, right? And the very marginalized, and that's why I was talking about fishing in troubled waters, all right? Marginalized see that they could get benefits from untoward activities, and they engage in that for their own purpose. Whether they were politically organized, and from whichever side they were politically organized to do so, I'm not certain. I don't know. That is an open question. All right. So
you reject Niger, you saying that the PPP plays the agent?
I am saying that if he wants to do, if he claims that, let go to a court of law and win that case.
He can't win that.
No, I don't know. But let them go to a court of law. Whether they are agent provocateurs, they have been and they will always be in political life. But what are they for what purpose? You see, that's the other problem. That's the other problem. Because in this thing we call Guyana, we have far much more serious problems.
Well, you say you want to answer the question that I posed to you.
I'm answering it. We have far much more serious problems.
You answering it?
Yes.
The answer, the question...
I'm talking about how it's going to...
The question I posed to both of them is, how is it likely to... happen on Monday
affect the election.
Affect the election voting pattern. You're getting there?
Yes.
But I hope you get there before the time goes right.
How long will we have?
Go on. My operator will tell me how long more we have.
No, you see, we have had turbulence in the past. And I do agree that we should learn from mistakes of the past and don't repeat them. I agree with that as an argument, because that's a sound argument. If you see something...
You're coming up to the two answers they provide for my question. You said you're answering the question I put to the
I am answering the question, Freddie.
Yeah. And you think we have whole day, right?
Well,
whole night.
We have. No, the issue we have... No, he's always do this. The issue we have here...
Well, I wanted to answer the question so we can move on.
Yes. The issue we have here is highly complex. And it has to do with economics inside of that. Sociology.
Could you answer the question that he answered? He answered, how would Monday evening affect voting patterns?
It will.
Both of them said that the PNC and AFC will be at a disadvantage based on the attitude to the inferno on Monday evening. They made that quite clear.
What is your view?
That is distinctly a possibility. We do not know, because I cannot determine, because there's a lot of things that's going to happen between now and nomination day and election day. So to isolate this event at this point to say that because of this is going to happen then, that's like, let's stretch it.
No, but an analytical mind could extrapolate from an action to say, right.
That's the argument of tendency.
If any one of the three Indians here and the Portuguese sitting down there make any statement, I'm talking about ethnic, and Guyanese is a nationality. If the three ethnic Indians here and the ethnic Portuguese should say anything that is racial against another race, I think it's logical to predict that this show will lose some of its viewers.
I agree that.
So, but it's logical to surmise
the argument
there will be vote loss.
The argument of tendency at this point, right?
Could we go? Yeah.
We'll give some credibility to what they say. Let
me just say this.
But I don't know that.
I indicated earlier the effect on the opposition and the AFC. Now I'll say this: throughout this situation, the PPP has proved itself vigilant in terms of public safety, ensuring justice, etc. They should have anticipated. They have seen the history. They should have understood what the PNC does, how the PNC and so on exploits situation. And I'm saying they do exploit situation. You all should know there's no way PPP thugs took over Buxton, and we all know that Mr. Hoyt took Guyana flag and put it over the coffins of London, of London and Troy Dick, I think it was. Two criminals who. Right? The second thing is, we all know that they had videos with these guys with AK, and they were called freedom fighters. We also know when we examine the WPA historically, and even Rodney, when it was sort of the police force in terms of, look, down the street here, people are robbed all the time. Use decoys. If you know the police taking bribes, do sting operation.
Pay them more money.
In other words, there's nothing from this PPP that has any, to my mind, brains. So to deal with this question of robbery, violence, and all of these things.
Raj, let me say something, Freddie. In response,
they failed completely, man.
In response to my friend here, Rajendra, here's what you're saying: that the PPP should have anticipated actions by thugs.
Yeah, because it happens every time.
Now, how many villages you think that the PPP could have put police into to stop this? First of all, you'd have to know where the action would happen. You may have an idea. Did you expect them to go all the way to quarantine? But to say that is pushing it a little.
I'm not saying they'll block all, but Georgetown would have erupted.
Yes,
man.
but the police were there. The police were still alert. And I know, but again,
deploy the army.
What?
Declare a state.
No, that's a totally different thing.
That's what they should have done in Buxton. Declare a state of emergency and deploy the army. They stupidly deployed the army without declaring a state of emergency, and the army said we cannot act to arrest anybody. They don't know that.
But hold on.
That.
Unless something violent is happening,
no, tell me.
You cannot declare a state of emergency.
What was happening in Buxton?
We're talking about.
I'm showing you where.
We're talking this Monday night story.
But they deployed the army in Buxton without declaring a state of emergency.
Hold on.
And the army could not act.
We're not
legally.
We're talking about this Monday night event as a result of the death of Adrianna Young.
Stupidly.
All right, hold on. Let's deal with this one.
They should have anticipated
the
violence.
Have declared a state of emergency before any burning or anything.
The violence started. The violence started.
Man, but it could not at that stage.
The moment it started, they should declare the state of emergency and deploy. Because we know what happens, man.
Yeah, but again, where will you put that? We don't have enough soldiers to cover all the villages
at least protect Georgetown. Georgetown is the main place that's going to take place. The main violence took place in Georgetown, sir.
And you have all over the place.
At least we could reduce it, man. Come on.
All right.
Well, after that exchange, should we bring in a calmer voice?
A calmer voice.
Thank you. Thank you, Freddie.
Yeah, calmer voice.
The issue. Your fellow panelists said, please deal with the issue.
Yeah.
You said the man is not your friend, so I didn't want to say your friend.
Mr. Bissesar
I always thought you were my friend. I'm surprised.
On a historical tangent.
I thought you were my friend,
I'm happy that Mr. Charrandass brought him back to the timeline that we are attempting to come to opinions on. We're supposed to learn from history. One. Two, we're supposed to understand that the elements changes over time too.
The elements you go into science?
The elements of the issue.
Social, you mean social elements?
Yeah, the social elements.
I thought you were talking about science.
No, the social elements. So to place one thing and cover it into another.
It's like circumambulation.
No, I'm getting to the point. You see?
Yeah, but you keep saying that in the point.
I'm getting to the point when you give me a chance to get to the point. Right? So to take this one construct and in an element which changes over time and place it directly that this is what you must do or this is what they should do. That's what my good friend had just said.
Which one?
You can. This is the courtesy of the table. This is the courtesy of the table. Please, this is the courtesy of the table. Please.
No, you were just being discourteous to the man by saying not your friend.
The point is, Freddie, give me a break, please. You know. I think you're getting mischievous now.
He's mischievous always.
Well, I know, but deliberately and provocatively. Now, we have to make sure that our country gets into a better situation than we currently are in. There are a lot of anger out there. Anger not only because of this girl's death, but that she might have been the trigger, or death might have been the trigger that lose some of this social anger because of the economic repression and all kind of dynamics that is happening in our country.
Golden Grove and
all right? There is a perception, and you articulated the perception too, that the PPP is only looking after the big ones inside of their party. You said that, Mr. Bissesar.
Of course I said that.
Right, good.
More than
and so what happened to the people on the lower floor who've seen all of this and saying, what happened to me? You forget me?
The marginalized it's not marginalized at a cross-racial spectrum.
No, that's what I'm saying. And I'm crossing the political spectrum in it too. And that is the problem we have. We have to understand that there are things that makes us Guyanese, and we have to understand that as Guyanese, we have to protect some values some values innate in our concept of us Guyanese, and disallow those that we don't accept.
Translate that into practical politics to me, please. Because you're
no, I'm keeping it in philosophy.
I may not have the intellectual erudition to understand what you're saying, but you just bring that down in practical terms. This thing you're talking about. How do we do this? And they culprits that are interfering with this thing that you're talking about.
Yes, they are. And they should be answerable in the court of law. There's a procedure to get these things done.
As I said, the marginalized in this country is not any one particular race.
No, it is.
All the races are stratified.
Yes.
The rich and the poor. So let's understand. Now, as I said, we were 28 years in opposition. I was part of the PPP. But
so what you using we are now?
We never instigated.
What you said? What you just said?
No, what you saying? No, we are. He's now become back a PPP.
I said we were.
All right, go ahead. All right.
Right. So the point is, we did not have. We demarginalized and didn't go and loot and burn and whatever. Okay. That's a reality. It takes place generally when the PPP wins the election and the PNC loses the election. That's a reality. And so it's like a knee-jerk response on their part, which doesn't make sense and is not acting in their favor. What I'm saying in terms of what is happening here, you talk about values and Guyanese. I keep preaching that if blacks are the minority, and I told David and a couple of others, and you try to fight for the black people based on blacks. The moment you speak blacks, you're not bringing the rest into the fore. So you're fighting on your own. But I keep saying, if you recognize that the Indians are also marginalized, and you address the thing that could unite the marginalized Indians and blacks and Amerindians, which is the economic marginalization and the class position that they occupy, then we could unite them.
And the Portuguese.
And the Portuguese too.
Why have you left out that? Is that a Freudian thing?
I think that's the problem.
I'll tell you what, because generally, the category of Portuguese are in more or less, they've done good for themselves. They have done good. You don't find too much of the marginalized Portuguese in Guyana, except Madrid.
He's always been a we go up together and work with him.
So what?
He's always been a Portuguese.
I have no problem in although I have a rich name.
So I agree.
To let you know.
And I disagree with him to call you Rasputin. But what I'm saying,
Rasputin is a great guy.
Yeah, great.
We have
He made Lenin happen.
In terms of the values, unless if the working class blacks and working class Indians primarily were to close ranks, we don't have to protest. They can shut the country down by staying home. And I'll say this to you: during the Hoyt regime, when we had that big budget, and the Hoyt regime, because of IMF
89 budget that the IMF called the vampire budget.
IMF conditionality said fiscal austerity, no wage increase, bauxite and sugar went on strike. They got 40% increase. It demonstrates if the working class unite, you can gain things in your interest. And I keep preaching to the people in this country.
The operator said 4 minutes have left. I want to ask this man.
Well, let me just conclude this.
Because he doesn't answer questions directly.
I'm not going to.
I want to ask this man. You do not see the attitude of the PNC and the AFC over what happened Monday evening that will cost them votes. Don't you think that it's commonsensical that you go onto the airwaves and said this thing is unacceptable? If you are our supporters and you were part of that, desist from it because you're not helping our cause, and you will win votes.
Yes. Don't you think Freddie, what you said is...
Do you think they will get Indian votes after that?
No, hold on a moment. You're
non-friend has asked you a question.
You're making a racist statement.
No. He's making a racist statement.
No, hold on a moment.
Excuse me.
I'm speaking to...
He asked you that they wouldn't get Indian votes, and that's a racist statement?
I am responding to what you said, and then I will respond to what he said. Freddie, what you said, I think all that is functional.
Oh, that is what?
Functional.
It's functional.
Real, yes, okay.
If they had done so, but then you are determining for a political group this is the way you must respond.
I am not determining that. No. I am doing my analysis based on someone living in my country as to how people will react.
I'm talking to
you accept that.
So you don't know what will happen to me if I go up on the road there and curse a black child. You don't know what will happen to me. You don't know what will happen to you or Charan. If you go there and curse an Indian boy or girl and use the C name.
Or if you have an
also
accident
you
in
don't know how
Boston.
people will react to a political party that's supporting violence.
When Norton said it, you believe Norton when he said that
hold on. They say there's something called an assumption.
An assumption.
All right. And many times we speak language loose.
So you're assuming that they're marginalized people in Guyana?
I know that they are marginalized.
So you see, you know that.
Yeah,
but other people must know. Other people must. So you know. Well, I know the PNC are going to lose
2025
votes because I see cars burning and I see baby with acid on their children with acid on their face.
No, I'm not saying that that's not so. I'm not saying that will not be so.
But you're telling me how I know.
Hold on. No, hold a moment, Freddie.
We've got
sometimes, calm yourself a little bit. All right, please. Now, the issue, what we have, right?
We got.
The issue is much of what you said as functionality. Good. But the question that is posed at the table is
validity. That's validity.
That's validity. Good. Same thing. The question at the table. The question at the table is how would it affect the elections?
Yeah, and that's what we got to do.
And I can tell you. A lot of people is going to be turned off of the entire political process if they don't see a functionality in relation to come into some definitive position of how do you deal with these problems when they arise.
Rasputin was a mystical man, and all you do there for the past hour is mystical output. We've got to go. Rajendra, thanks for being with us. As always, you're welcome on this program. Charan, this is about your 6th or 7th time, and my friend, this is about your 6th or 7th time. These three persons are reliable persons for the Freddie Kissoon Show. We were looking at the implications of Monday evening and the young girl's tragic drowning and the implication for voting. Thanks for being with us once again. Enjoy the rest of this holiday, and we will see you on our next session Wednesday.